Hello, flourishers. Welcome to Flucking Flourishing podcast. Today, I am chatting to Kate Dalby. Her Substack is called the Train to Titsville. I can't say it. Her notes make me laugh, cry, and she is a hilarious queenager who does not hold back. She has stories that include details of all the people she's met, encountered, and observed in her life. So be wary if you ever bump into Kate anywhere. Her notes on Substack and about the conversations with her husband could be published in a book, and I really hope they are. Welcome, Kate.
Hello. I'm a podcast virgin, so be
Yeah.
kind to me.
Oh, nice. I've got podcast cherry. That is always exciting to know. So, how are you flourishing right now?
I suppose it's a bit trite, really, but I think I was 60 last week.
Happy
And
birthday.
I know, and it was something that, do you know, when I was 39, I dreaded being 40 for some reason.
Mm,
When I was 50, I don't know, it didn't really bother me so much because at 50 I had too much going on in my life looking after elderly parents and things, as many women do. But
mm,
60, I actually feel free. I feel
amazing.
really free now.
That
And
is
it feels
amazing.
bloody good. And I'm just very, very thankful that I've got good health to
Yeah.
enjoy it, really, because I've got friends who haven't, sadly.
Mm.
So, yeah, I feel very much like I'm flourishing at the moment.
Yeah, that's awesome. Now, I know you through your writing,
Hmm.
and I have spent quite a bit of time this summer reading your notes. My mum came to visit me from Australia to Finland, where I am currently situated, and it was great joy. I was like, "Oh, she's written another one, Mum," and I would read it out loud, and honestly, we would laugh so much. It's hilarious. Um, you write about your husband. He doesn't know about it really, does he?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he,
He
he
does.
doesn't know about it when I'm sort of clocking and thinking, because I don't really think about it until we're sort of right at the end of the conversation.
Yeah.
And it's usually one of those conversations where I end up rolling my eyes and going, oh, God. And then I think, oh, sod it, you're going on Substack for that. And then, but I always read it out to him
Yeah,
afterwards,
yeah, of course.
And
Yeah.
I've got, I think, two or three of them. He's now got some male friends out of it. I get men saying, "Oh, Paddy's a legend. I love Paddy." So I keep saying, "Don't moan about it. I'm making you new friends for you,"
Yeah. And
like a little kid at school.
yeah. It's
But yeah.
it's interesting because you do mention that he says, "Oh, that thing you do called Substack," like
Oh, yeah, yeah.
that
He sort of knows what it is, but he doesn't.
yeah,
He
and
doesn't
not
really do it
and not
social.
necessarily the scale of it too. You have a significant number of subscribers that perhaps you maybe didn't think when you started this whole project. But you mentioned to me before that you had no plan. How has this sort of landed in your life at this?
Oh, well, it was because I started my MA. I've always wanted to write. I've always written tons and tons of journals. I've got buckets and buckets of blooming notes and journals and drawers full of them, and
Yeah,
over the years. But I've always wanted to write, and I wrote a novel a few years ago just to see if I could, not
yeah,
with the intention of doing anything with it, but because I think a lot of people don't write publicly, they don't know if they're any good. You just
yeah,
genuinely just do not know if you're any
yeah.
good. And given that I tend to read a lot of literary fiction,
Mm,
I know I'm not up there. So
yeah.
it is. I've always felt like it was. I didn't even know where I was on the scale.
Mm,
So when a couple of years ago, a number of things happened, and my mother-in-law had to move in with us. And it meant that I gave up work temporarily, but for a year or so, just to get everything sorted. We had so much on. And it was decided that, because we live in the middle of nowhere and it was getting so hard to manage. And my husband said, well, you take time off because you hate your job and I don't. So I took the time out to deal with it. And because I'd got some time out, I started an MA in creative writing.
yeah,
So it was purely because one of the things that came out of that was that if you do want to start writing, and I was getting good marks, so I realised that I could actually which I never really,
You
really
needed
knew before.
validation.
Yeah, so I
Yeah,
thought, oh
yeah.
gosh, I can actually do this. Maybe this little glimmer of hope in in the future that I might get published.
Mm.
Um, and then I had the bombshell of, oh no, you've got to have a platform now. Got to do social media now, which it might as oh for me it was like the worst thing ever because I'm
Yeah.
just not. I don't like social media. I don't like the trolls. I don't like the open sewer that it is. Yeah,
Mhm.
I hear about a lot of it through my friends, usually dating on dating sites,
Yeah.
which is just dreadful.
That's a
The
whole other
worst kind.
world, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
Terrifying. I've heard a bit about it. I haven't done it myself either.
exactly. Me neither. So if anything ever happened to Paddy, I still wouldn't.
No.
I've got Walter, my dog. That's enough.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, so and I've got accounts with these things, and I've had a look at them, and it's a little bit like when I very first saw reality TV on Big Brother. I stared at it for 10 minutes, couldn't see the point, and never went on it again. And this
Mm.
is the sort of thing. This is my relationship with social. So I thought, oh my god, this is just horrendous. So I just trolled through everything I could find, and eventually happened upon Substack,
Okay.
which looked like it was actually for writers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was the first thing, and I joined it, and for months I just tittered about, didn't really know what to write about, and I kept looking at these, how to get Substack followers because I didn't even know how to work it,
No.
the
No.
actual mechanics of it.
Yeah.
So I did. I worked that out through YouTube videos.
Well done,
Um,
you.
yeah, and then in the end, and I just thought, well, then what do you do? So I wrote a couple of notes, and
Yeah.
Start. Oh my god, this is so boring. This is so crap.
Yeah.
Why am I
Yeah.
doing this? It's just awful and cringy and awful. Anyway, so yeah, and so then I just hit upon the idea of sort of writing stuff from my journals. I thought, well, I haven't done anything. It's not like I've had some amazing career or I've met anyone famous or I've done anything remotely interesting. My life's just been full of funny people. It has just
Yeah.
been full of funny people.
Yeah.
I just attract them. I work with them. My family with them. And so I just thought, well, I'll just write about that crap. And it just took off. And I don't know why, but people just seem to like it. And there we go.
Yeah.
Here I am.
And I really love that because what you're doing is you're showing up as yourself in your life and with how your life looks, but you notice things that perhaps other people don't, and you have a way with words that I think is fabulous because I mean I'm still thinking about some of the things that you've written about that I kind of almost the cry laughing thing is real. Like I get that you observe and you're like, yeah, I know that. And even though I'm not from the UK and I don't know all the like idiosyncrasies sometimes that you talk about, but I can picture it still. So you bring it alive. Um, and it's normal. It's very kind of normal, which is really nice. I don't want to read about somebody's high flying career, to be honest. I would much rather read about your maybe the peeing one made me laugh a lot.
Oh, the weeing one,
Yeah, the
yeah. Oh,
weeing.
that was it. I wrote that because again, they're not. I
Yeah,
don't sort of choose a diary. I tend to sort of
no,
try and choose a bit of a theme
yeah,
because there's always usually more than one incident, isn't there, in a
yeah,
theme?
yeah.
I mean, the wedding one that I did recently, I've got about 5 or 6 weddings that were equally
That
bizarre.
was hilarious. I have read that and I was like, wow, that is yeah, and I do know some weddings in Australia that always end up with a punch up. Like my
Yeah,
wedding wasn't my first one. But I yeah, that it's a thing in Australia too that it can end in a punch up depending on where you live.
it's
And
booze.
I did relate. I've been a bridesmaid once and I did wear an electric blue. It wasn't chiffon though, it was like sort of a plastic material that was
Oh
just really
God,
disgusting, and
yeah.
I had puff sleeves that was so big that when I turned my head, I couldn't see anything but the puff sleeves, so
Yeah, you were that Smurf.
I
You were
was.
the
I could relate so much to the Smurf. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it is beautiful. I mean, in your writing, you're observing and you're it comes out, and you're funny. You might not think you are, but you are. I find it so amusing. What are the other things in your life that help you flourish?
Um, I think the only thing that's really helped me, I think humour helps me survive this
Yeah.
question. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think when you get older, you find a bit of peace in the little things, don't you? I've got loads of pleasure out of my dog. I've never been able to have a dog before because we always worked full time, and I just didn't think it was right, really. And long hours, and so when it transpired that we wouldn't be going back to the office and that we'd be working from home forever, we got a dog, and that's brought so much. Animals bring so much. As you know from my writing, I did have a
I do.
horse.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the dog's a lot less trouble, put it that way. So yeah, so I do I'm not a great exercise fan. I do try and exercise because it's good for me, but I don't like it. It
Mm,
bores me shitless.
mm.
Um, and I'm a great believer in sort of not giving stuff up, like wine and
Yeah.
nice food. I know that we've got to be careful as we get older, but I think when I see people going on massive health kicks, you think, well, there's got to be some joy in life, hasn't there? And,
Mhm.
and you can't give everything up. So yeah,
Mm.
I just sort of, I suppose, try and do everything in moderation, really. And
Mm.
yeah,
And that's good advice. I think that's really
mm,
good advice. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
A question that I ask people who talk to me on this podcast, what are you unlearning?
Unlearning.
Mm.
Oh God, unlearning. Yeah, I know. I think unlearning's much harder than learning.
Mhm.
Yeah. I know that when I was learning to re-ride my horse, I had to unlearn a lot of bad habits and relearn how to ride.
Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, very much so. Yeah, I
Mm.
think there is a lot of that. And I know it sounds a bit of a cliche about the people pleasing, but that is a thing. That is
It
a
is a
massive,
thing. It's not a cliche.
huge for
It's
women.
yeah, it
I think
is.
there's this one thing I've noticed in people's, well, women's lives particularly, because I don't think men particularly give a shit about people. I know my husband doesn't, and I'd
Although
love to be more
talk,
padding.
yeah, you did talk
Yeah.
about the northern bloke kind of
Oh,
people
yeah,
thing.
yeah.
That's the
Well,
form of men's people pleasing, maybe.
that's it. That's a northern man's version of people pleasing. Is
Yeah,
this intense loyalty to my
yeah,
mate, and that
yeah,
I'll just, oh, my mate's run off a cliff. I think
yeah,
I'll follow him.
yeah. I
Yeah,
don't
well, you
remember
can
him,
roll.
but
Yeah, well, this is it. You can roll your eyes at that, but
yeah,
women do that
mm,
every minute of every day, I
yeah,
think. And I think it's, yeah, and there's other things as well. There's other changes in your life as well. I mean, when you're in a vulnerable position, like when you're young and you're less, I suppose, well off, you're struggling to pay rent or a mortgage, you've got young children, you are quite vulnerable
mm,
to, keeping your job, making sure there are people around you for support. And so that people pleasing in some ways is a
mm,
form of survival when you're
yeah,
young. You have
mm,
to endure all sorts of indignities in the office, especially years ago when, there were more gropers around and that sort of,
yeah,
there was a lot of that went on. And,
mhm,
you had to suffer a million indignities when you were young.
mm,
And it's almost like by the time you get to my age, you've earned your bloody stripes. And
mm,
God help, not that at 60 I'd get much grumbling, to be fair. But if I did, God help the man that did it,
mm,
because I'd knock him over 2 tables, quite frankly, and I wouldn't hesitate.
no,
Um, so I think there's all sorts of things that you have, but that takes unlearning. It does take unlearning. It
it,
takes time
yeah,
to sort of realise that you can turn, but it also takes having the resources to back yourself up in
mm,
that situation. And when I hear people talk about younger women, oh, why didn't they say anything? Well, that's probably why they didn't say anything.
yeah,
Because when you're financially dependent on your job and things, you have to put up with so much.
mm.
So yeah, getting older. I think the biggie is the financial freedom allows you that sort of freedom to just say what you think, really.
Yeah, without worrying about, well, if I lose my job, that's it. I lose my everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And I know what most people talk about. how they are with the people around them. I mean, I am seeing a little bit more of that. I think the world's changing so much now.
Mm.
I don't know what it's like where you live, but here we're getting a real sort of split between division between people, groups of people,
Mm.
and we're having a real sort of a rise in sort of far right stuff and
Mm.
conspiracy theories abound and all that sort
Yeah.
of thing. And it's getting, it's getting difficult,
Mm.
really, to sort of keep your mouth shut
Mhm.
with some
Yeah.
things. And I, again, it's that knowing when the right time to say something is really. But
Mm. Do you I've been reading a lot about the rise of the matriarchy and that it's a way of kind of being in the world that perhaps would make the world better. Do you
mm.
have ideas around that? It sounds
Oh Christ, I think that we've got a long way to bloody go with that,
yeah,
haven't we? Jesus Christ, I mean, there aren't even that many women in power in a chuffing organisation, let alone the world. And even the women that do rise to the top, they rise to the top in within the patriarchal systems, don't they?
exactly.
They don't,
Mm.
the systems that would benefit women don't even exist. So it would be a ground zero. And
Yeah, I
that's not going to be easy to achieve for anything. So while I love the idea of it, and
mm,
even then, the idea of it, we've got to stay balanced here because do we want to create a system where men are excluded? Well, I don't. I
mm,
don't think that's any more fair than a patriarchy. I think a system where both we can exist equally is
mm.
probably more.
The models I've seen or the discussions that I've seen around it is that, it's really about I guess centering women and families and that men
Mm,
aren't excluded, but it's not them at the center. So
centre,
it's
yeah,
certainly attractive to me anyway when I feel of all the systems that we're building. It's like we have concessions for women, as we've
mm,
become in the workplace or become leaders in companies or not or left because it's too hard because you can't fit in a family. We're taking
yeah,
on the emotional load and of everything, and how that might shift. I think the discussions, I guess, are worth having and thinking about the models. But I happened to see this morning something. I think it was on the dreaded social media, but it was a reel that I really appreciated. This woman said, "Well, we could have two billionaires fighting in a pit, and we all watch. And the billionaire that loses, all of their wealth gets redistributed to families and communities, and the one who wins only gets to keep their wealth if they give back more to society than they take." And I was like, that is brilliant. I love that idea. Can we do this?
yeah. That's definitely win-win, isn't
Exactly.
it?
I know I loved it because
Yeah.
it just yeah, it was clever. I thought, yeah, and the loser gets sacrificed to a goddess. I was like, yeah, maybe they don't have to be to the death.
Yeah.
The redistribution of wealth maybe might feel like death to them. Yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah,
it. But yeah. So I think, yeah, it's just difficult times generally, aren't they? And it's
yeah,
just usually women that come out of these recessions and these difficult economic times worse. Definitely, I think one of the saddest thing, I think the hardest thing and the saddest thing is that childcare. I don't know about in Finland, but in Britain it's so expensive. When I
it's
went to
really
university in the early 90s, my
mm,
first essay was a compare and contrast of comparison
mm,
essay on childcare in Europe.
mhm,
And even then, in the UK, we came out really, really bad. And
mm.
even back in the early 90s, and it's just got worse.
So it hasn't changed in that
No,
period.
not it's slightly, not slightly.
Yeah,
No, got
yeah,
worse if anything.
yeah. I mean, Finland being a sort of more socialist leaning country, I think childcare is okay. I didn't have my children here, so I don't
Mm,
know, but I think it's pretty reasonable. I know in Australia it's expensive, and
yeah,
and when I had my children, it was basically cheaper for me to stay at home with my kids than it was to go to
yeah.
work and pay for childcare.
That's
I
it.
mm,
Yeah, yeah. I
yeah,
think that's like for most women, isn't it? But then, of course, then it causes problems with pensions and all
that's
the
right.
things that come
Yeah.
later. I mean, mine's a perfect example because my husband's got a. He's one of the last people to get a final salary pension. because I think he was the last one to scrape in, and he stayed in his job. That's the key thing. He stayed where the final salary pension was. Whereas I've moved jobs a little bit more than him, so I didn't have one. And consequently, I think my private pension, because I was thinking of taking it, so I've had a look into it, and it's about £400-500 a month. That's it. You know, I'm absolutely screwed. So
Yeah.
I don't get the state pension plus that.
Yeah.
So on my own, I'd be absolutely buggered. I wouldn't even be able to run the house on that. So it's and that's because the years out,
Yeah.
children and various other things, and
Yeah.
looking after parents and all that sort of thing. And years when I just simply couldn't
Mm.
afford to pay into a pension because I wasn't earning.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I think there'll be a lot of people like that around the world in whatever country they're in with the pension situation,
mm,
that if you've been the one that has taken significant amount of time off work, that you aren't going to have that. I mean, for
mm,
me, it was a big gap,
yeah,
and I've had a big gap again. Well, moved country, so that doesn't help. Doesn't help my pension in Australia. It
yeah.
certainly haven't means that I don't have. So that, I mean, that's something, I guess, that maybe if we had a matriarchal system, that wouldn't be a thing.
Well, yeah, I mean, I do think, and I don't, it might be me looking through the world with soft rose-colored glasses, I don't know,
Yeah.
but I do think that if there was a matriarchal system,
Mm.
there would be more focus on care for the elderly and care
Yeah.
for children and care,
Yeah.
generally.
Mm.
And it sounds terrible, doesn't it? It sounds like men are terrible people, but I just think it's just more, I don't know, I just think women are more inclined that way. I don't know.
Mm.
Uh,
Men are stuck in the system too. I mean, they might not want to be part of the patriarchy either. It doesn't
yes,
help
but
them
they've got
really.
it. Yeah,
Yeah, because
that's it.
capitalism on top of that, you've then got this system that really only helps those who just keep getting richer and richer. I mean,
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
seriously, they should all hop in a rocket and fly off into
I
the
know, absolutely. But you see, I've
Stop
sort of
that.
seen this before because
Yeah.
I think what I'm seeing now is that we've got lots of issues now with people pointing the finger at immigration or one thing or another. And I remember when I grew up, I've sort of seen this before. When resources get tight, people
Mm,
start, they want a scapegoat, they want to point the finger.
yeah.
And where I grew up was in the steel area of Sheffield, which was really
Mhm.
um, just a working class area, but there was
Mhm.
thousands of people lived there. There's thousands of jobs in the steelworks, and at one point we had lots of people coming over from Pakistan and Yemen, to actually work in the steelworks, and
Mm.
that was all fine. And I don't remember hearing any real racism or anything like that when I was a kid, other than the 1970s awful TV shows and stuff that were around at
Yeah.
the time, which were
Yeah.
normal. But
Mm.
I never heard any hatred. Let's put it
Mm.
um, until they started to close the steelworks down.
Oh,
And I can remember that I was about 13, 14. And I mean, we lived in really sort of, I suppose, that old style poverty. We didn't have indoor we didn't have bathrooms
yeah,
at all. We had outside toilets. We didn't have
yeah,
bathrooms. So resources were very tight. So I'm
yeah.
very hesitant to sort of look at these communities and really sort of go for them because
Mm.
I get it. I get it. I don't agree with them, but I get it. When
Mm.
resources are tight, you look and you blame, and the
Mm.
media and politicians want you to do that
Yeah,
because it keeps the focus off them and how they're contributing, because that's
yeah,
the real cause, isn't it?
yeah.
And I think, yeah, and so I've seen it before, and it makes me very uncomfortable to watch it
Mm.
again. It really does.
It's interesting when you get to a point in your life where you see the things cycle back again.
Cycle, yeah,
And I agree with you. I mean, in Australia, racism is still rife, sadly. I think, I mean, it is to a certain extent everywhere, and social media has allowed, like as you said, the
mm,
rise of the far right. But things have changed, and even since I've been away from Australia, things have changed in how they, um, I guess, the media or welcome to country and recognising our Aboriginal Australians is much more part of normal life in Australia, which is fantastic,
Yeah.
as it should be. But I have noticed too that it's very easy for people to turn around and just blame those who have it the hardest for
Mm.
all the woes, when really it's the smoke and mirrors of like the people who have all the power and money are saying, oh, look at those people over there, mean
Yeah, yeah.
accumulating more and more.
Yeah, it's so obvious to me.
Mm,
What's frustrating is that it's not obvious to the people who live in the communities that
yeah,
that behave like this and say
yeah,
these things, really. But
yeah.
there's not a lot we can do about that, is there? Unfortunately.
No, but I guess the way you write, I think it comes through in your writing. I think it comes through. You're not afraid to point out the incongruencies or the unfairness, which I think is really lovely in a way that is also humorous, but it's fair.
Mm.
You're kind of, maybe that being 60 has brought
Yeah,
you into your life.
yeah. I don't know. It's. I think you do get. I mean, I'm very conscious of, because politics is so, oh gosh, so sticky at the
It
moment.
is.
So it's very, very difficult to
Yeah.
write about. I think if I try not to bring politics into anything that I write, for the simple reason that that's not what I do.
No.
It doesn't mean that's not what I am.
No.
Like, my degree was in politics.
Mm.
I'm very, very interested in current affairs. I follow a lot of current affairs, always have done. Um, and but that's a different Substack,
Yeah.
and you have to prepare yourself. I think if you're going to write about things like that, you have to prepare yourself in a different way.
Yeah.
I did consider writing about politics, but I don't want to write about politics for a living. I want to write fiction. I'm a
Yeah.
fiction writer,
Yeah.
so what is the point of that?
Yeah.
This,
You can be more
that's a
than one
different
thing.
job.
Yeah, you can be more than one thing and write and choose to
Yeah,
write about what you wanna write about, I guess.
yeah, you can. But if
Yeah.
I started here only a few months ago with this
Mhm.
goal, this sort of, oh, I want to be a writer. I want to do
Yeah.
fiction. What do I do? I'll write about this.
Yeah.
Um, so even though I'm very, very interested in politics, it's not something I'd write about right now, because I'm not. I haven't even got this off the ground. Let
Yeah.
alone starting at something else. But yeah, there's also ready people a lot better than me already doing this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I
And it's
prefer to.
enjoyable to connect to them, I guess, too. I mean, the platforms that we have now, we can connect with all of these people
Oh yeah,
in ways that we didn't, where it was just a newspaper and they were a name and they might have had a photo on their byline.
yeah, yeah,
Now you
yeah.
can
So I think
actually.
that's going to stay a hobby. If you
Yeah,
can call
yeah.
politics a hobby, but you know what
Yeah,
I mean. I think
yeah.
that I don't think I'll ever write about it. But I think it does sometimes come through in writing, because I'm always very careful. Um, you know, even like I say, even when you go back into your own journals,
Mm.
that wedding that I wrote about
Yeah.
was it my last post, the one before? I
Yeah,
can't remember.
I
But
think
that wedding was in the 80s. I
yeah.
mean, that was back in something like 1987 or something
Mhm.
ridiculous like that. I mean, the
Yeah,
world was a very different place, and sometimes
yeah,
I'll open old things that I've written from years
yeah,
ago, and there are things in there that wouldn't land well today. And I
yeah.
don't mean racist, terrible, horrible things, but
No.
just a way of looking at the world that was different. And I was young, and I was,
Yeah,
so I do sometimes have to do a little bit of rewriting with
yeah.
things,
Well,
because you've got to adapt to the
yeah,
world
yeah,
around you, haven't you? You've got
yeah.
to change with it.
Yeah, that was interesting with the wedding piece, and I'll pop a link to it because it was. But you were really aware of, well, back when this happened, you could just move to the next suburb and they wouldn't know where you
Yeah.
were. It's kind of like, yeah, because now, I mean, you connect with all these people around the world in ways
Yeah,
you never would have done in the
yeah.
80s. It
Look
was a
at
pen
us.
pal at the most. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what amazed me is that, as I said, where I grew up, in the steelworks. I mean, they pulled that area down. They closed all the steelworks, which were vast, vast steelworks. I don't want you to think of them as a couple of little factories. These were huge places. And they closed most of the steelworks down, and they demolished the area. The schools, the houses, everything was
Mhm.
flattened. There's nothing of where I grew up. It's just wasteland. It was a wasteland for years until they built a shopping mall on it and various other things. But for many, many years, it was just this wasteland, and there was nothing left of that childhood memory. And I remember when that community split up, which was a very, very close community. My mum and dad, my grandma lived around the corner, and my aunties were always there. And we were sort of scattered around the city. And I can remember my best friends moved a couple of miles away and I never saw them again. I literally never saw them again overnight. And so yeah, I mean, back in those days, it just didn't happen. And I think it was Facebook actually. They did catch up with me on Facebook, and we did go to see each other. And we'd not seen each other since we were about 14. Um, so yeah, it is a totally different world, and I do like to highlight that in some of my writing because the contrasts are funny. And you could do things then, especially if, I don't know whether anybody under the age of 50 ever reads anything I write, but if they do, some things do require a little bit of explanation. I mean, the ups, I knew that for my age group, there's no way you can leave the ups upside your head dance out.
Exactly.
Everybody down there on the glass, down there in the boggy, up your skate up, crack on with it. That was going to happen. I mean, you had to be absolutely pissed for it to happen, but it was going to happen. Whether you were cool or not. And so I just knew that had got to be in there. But I just knew that anybody younger than that would go, what, dance? What? Thank you, YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. And the great thing is, I guess now, is that you can do that. You can bring in references from other platforms because we're on there too. 50 plus.
I think that I remember that being an issue, having some sort of debate about that a couple of years ago in some writing group or other, and it was someone saying about you shouldn't use cultural references because they date, and I agree to some extent, they do date, but now there's no excuse to not. Sort of you can do a bit of a Google. I mean, cracky, it's not like, I actually quite enjoy that when I read fiction from years ago set in a particular era. It's the small things that I like. I like to see the little ways of life, the details. I really like to read that in there.
The things that you forget as well. I recently read, there's an Australian writer called Trent Dalton, and he wrote a book called Boy Swallows Universe, which is also a Netflix series, and he is around my age, and the details of him writing, it was set in the 80s, and it was I had to message my sister. I was like, oh, what the heck? He had everything, just the clothing and the things at school. He'd remembered all of it, researched it all, and I just be back into that place and time. And it is. That's important, I think, about fiction writing, is that you are taking people back to a time and a place that they can relate to.
It's fun. I mean, especially when you see the contrast, and like I say, with the dancers and even the attitudes. When I wrote a fiction piece, actually, somewhere on Substack. So I've got another little Substack that I don't really do much with because it's a fiction one, but I stick little bits and bobs that I've written on my course on there, just so that they're there. And there's one called The Wine Bar, and I wrote it. I was driving home from. Driving home one day, and I just think about this thing that I got to workshop, and it was all, I don't know, we were studying, I don't know, dialogue or something like that. And all of a sudden, I just remembered that there was a first time in Northern England when we got a wine bar. There's a first time for everything. I love the idea of firsts. I love the old concept of firsts. How people looked at it, how people responded to it, and I remember very distinctly around the era when The Wedding was written, just before then, it was all very traditional pubs, in Sheffield, real sort of northern working class sort of city, a lot of it. And the concept of the wine bar with the shiny bowl, the mirror bowls and the pink fluffy seats and, this array of cocktails. I mean, it was just basically pints of bitter lager. Thought you were posh if you had a pint of lager with a bit of lime in it. And so, and I can remember the conversations around that time, the excitement of going into town to see this new wine bar. I mean, God, I was there. I had those conversations. So, and I just felt like I needed to record that.
And that's cool. I think recording those things, it gives you, I guess, generational wise, it gives you a portal into their lives, like into a
Mm.
life that perhaps you might be unfamiliar with, or it might parallel your own, but you're from a different country, like me. I mean, I grew up in a really small country town in South Australia, and yeah, that I could thinking about it, there's probably a few. I don't think there were very many first, but I remember when the supermarket opened because we went
Yes,
to
the
the
big
supermarket.
supermarkets.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
it wasn't big, I can tell you, but it was a big deal.
yeah, big deal. Yeah, I
Things
can
like
remember
that.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, that, we had 2 pubs and there's never been a wine bar, I can tell you that
No, no.
now. But
Yeah.
I think it
Well,
it does. You either relate to it or it takes you to a place, where you gain an insight into an age or a time or a group of people, that you didn't have before, which I love. I'm a literary fiction lover myself, and but also read widely, kind of in other things. I'm thinking, do you read a lot?
yes, yes, I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't really. It's funny because someone mentioned something the other day. Someone on Substack mentioned about writing comedy. Like I'm a comedy writer, but I'm
You
not.
don't think of
Oh,
yourself?
it's not very lovely. Thank you for the compliment. But
Yeah.
I never set out to do
Mm,
comedy writing, and I didn't. I don't read comedy. I mean, I've read some funny books. You know,
yeah.
obviously, I've read thousands of books at my age,
Mm.
but I don't read comedy. I do tend to read sort of upmarket or literary fiction. Usually, my latest obsession is Han Kang because I've just read The Vegetarian. Um, yeah, and I don't really, like the comedy romancy type of
Yeah.
things. I just don't
No.
read them. I read One Day about 12 years ago.
Mhm.
That was my last
Yeah.
rom-com sort of comedy book that I wrote that was
Yeah.
mildly amusing. Um, but no, I don't read
Mhm.
what I write, funnily enough.
Yeah, it's
And I
interesting.
don't
Yeah.
and I don't know any. I mean, you know, when you look round at the sort of serious comedians, and my God, they are so bloody serious, aren't they? All the comedy bros, making it into some intellectual pursuit. I mean, bollocks to that. It's just
Yeah.
fucking right what you see. You know what I mean? I just don't get the sort of intellectualizing it all. It's like life is funny. People are funny.
Yeah.
If you've got my sense of humour, you'll laugh the same stuff as me. If you haven't got my sense of humour, you'll laugh at something that someone else does. It doesn't
Exactly.
matter. Why
Yeah.
why pick it apart and try and structure all this structuring of a joke? As you go,
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
It
What?
just,
What are you talking about?
I don't. I mean, that said, having said all that, during lockdown, I did do. It was only a 6 week. What I think it was 3 hours a week
Mhm.
course, and it was comedy sketch writing.
Mhm.
The only reason I did it is because it was online, and it was normally held in. Apparently, it was normally held in person, but because of lockdown, they turned this little course, and it popped up on somewhere on the internet, and I thought, oh, that should be fun. And what I presumed that would be me sat with my feet up, and a nice glass of wine, being entertained on a Zoom thing by a load of very funny people. That's what,
Oops.
and it absolutely was not that. Absolutely was not that. So I don't think it necessarily changed my writing, but it did make me aware of things like pacing.
Yes.
Um, and it was very good. It was anybody who writes, I would recommend do that course because you have to think on your feet. And what he
Yeah.
did, he made us go into groups and gave us 15 minutes to write a comedy sketch and then perform it.
Oh, boy. So you
Oh
really
boy, this is
yourself
me
out
who
there.
can't bear to even go on Instagram because I don't like videos. I wouldn't even video myself. So you can imagine this was the most mortifying thing that I'd ever seen. Within 2 weeks, all the women had dropped out bar me. It was just me and the
Amazing.
guys. And at that point, I had to stay, even though it was killing me,
Yeah.
because there's no way that I was going to let all the bros take over that one.
Yeah.
No chance. I wanted.
Well done,
I
you.
thought I
Did
can't
it
let the
right.
women down. I have got to stay and stick this out. And I did stick it out, and it was excruciating. But the sense of accomplishment at the end of it was
Yeah.
very good. And what it did, it really made you think on your feet,
Yeah.
which you never really have to do in writing.
No, you don't.
You can pace yourself, but it
Exactly.
threw me in the deep end. Right, you've got to think of a thing, and they just give you I don't know, a topic, and you just have to come out with a sketch and then just perform it. And so
And
it helped with my dialogue and it helped with
yeah,
pacing,
yeah.
and it was a really, really useful thing to do, even though it wasn't necessarily, a comedy writing fiction course. So I think that probably did help a bit. Um, but I don't see a massive difference in my writing because of it. Just
No.
that I could probably churn it out a bit quicker.
And maybe it's an internal shift. I mean, there's something about putting yourself in a vulnerable position. Okay, it was also safe, but as you said, it was excruciating and somewhat painful, but you felt like you had to stick it out. I love that. I love, is that something, is that part of you, that kind of like real stubborn, I'm not
Oh,
giving
oh, oh, God, yeah. If somebody tells me I can't do something, you bet your bottom dollar it'll get done. I can remember years ago, I had this boss. He was a bit like David Brent, lovely guy, great in the pub, shit boss. You know what I mean? One of those sort of guys.
Yeah.
And I was working in antisocial behaviour at the time, dealing with antisocial behaviour, and we were on about getting CCTV cameras. There's all sorts of laws around that.
Yeah.
So he sidled over to the desk one day and he said, right, do you fancy doing this CCTV training? So I said, oh, yeah, stick me on it. Right, that was it. Thinking it was some sort of policy thing. I'd go along to a classroom. Someone would teach me about CCTV legislation. I'd write a few notes about it, come out. That's what I thought. And we forgot about it. And then oh, crikey, it was about 3 months later, I got all the joining stuff through. And I looked at it. And what the actual 2 days in Hereford in a wood? What the fuck has he put me on? So I go into the thing and I said, Kev, what's this? And he went, whoa. And so I read it out to him. I went, this is the CCTV legislation thing. And then, have I put you on that? And he looked at the cost of it. He went, because he used to call me Wallace, that's my maiden name. He used to call my second name. He went, I don't give a shit, Wallace, at that price. You're fucking going on it. Go on. That's how we speak to each other in Yorkshire.
Yeah. That's great.
So I tootled off to Hereford in middle of the wilds of Hereford, and ended up with me and 5 guys, just me on this course run by an ex-SAS.
What? How is that? I'm trying to find the connection to CCTV.
Yeah. Covert surveillance.
Yeah.
Covert surveillance.
Okay.
And there was a number of situations on that 2 days where, I mean, there was one where we had to, I mean, it was, to be honest, I had the best laugh on that course, to be honest. But
have you written about it yet?
Huge thing in the woods and then get in it. And this was the sort of thing that apparently they did in covert surveillance. And then it was all covered with leaves, so you couldn't see it. And that's how they would spy on bases, army bases and things. He was telling us all these stories. But you were literally sat among the bugs in this thing on the floor of the wood, surrounded in encased in this thing. And normally I would be absolutely terrified of that.
Yeah.
And he said, right, come on then, who's first in? And all the blokes were stood like this. And I thought, no, I'm not going to stand there like a girl and do this. You can piss off. And I was straight down, like on my belly, like this in the woods. Get in there.
Good on you.
So I mean, that's just one example. But yeah, if anybody tells me I can't do something like that, it's like, did you ever read that post about my pocket psychopath? It was about this sort of rage that comes when anybody tries to intimidate me. Or
yes, I did read that.
Yes, it comes from the same place in my head, and it's sort of like, I don't know what it is. I don't know where it comes from. I'm not an analyst. I don't.
No, it doesn't matter really.
I'm not a navel-gazy person. I just, basically, I think it's just a lot of women. So many women on that post responded to that. By the way, absolutely loads. I thought I was just a little psycho. Turns out most of us are. And it was just this rage that I was describing is familiar to so many women. And I think it's part of the people pleasing, suppress your own emotions, be a nice woman, don't say this, don't say that. But then when someone actually puts you somewhere you don't want to be, like someone's trying to intimidate you, or it's years of that, I think, that just comes out. It just comes out. And there's no control. It's not stopping it. It's just out there. And it's no, not anymore. No, 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 no. And
And
it
in
comes from the same place, I think.
Yeah, and in some ways, it's better that it's out than in, I think. You get to
Mm,
a point where you realise that actually I can say this and do this and
yeah,
rage against it.
yeah, yeah. But don't you find that we have never lived in a more emotional time when people
Mm,
talk about their emotions so much,
yeah,
and yet a time where we suppress so many
yeah.
emotions. I mean, it's just like
Or
I
that it's still happening maybe. I thought that we would have been further along. Like,
yeah.
I thought that
Oh yeah,
the 90s and the early 2000s, that we would be way further along now, but it seems like the change is so slow that there are still young women who are having to, unlearn that people pleasing thing because it's
yeah.
still entrenched in wherever they are. And the realization that despite the world changing around us quickly, that there are some changes that are so
Mm.
slow, it's so
I
frustrating.
know, or going backwards, or
Yes,
going backwards. I mean, I do
exactly.
remember when I was at uni in the 90s, I remember that's the first time that I think political correctness, as they call it,
Yeah,
became a thing.
yeah,
And I didn't necessarily think that was a bad thing at the time. There were lots of things that needed to be kicked into touch.
change.
That Generation X, you see, that was our
Yeah,
thing, wasn't it?
exactly.
And it was it really saddens me. I thought we were on some sort of trajectory
Yeah.
towards, and it pisses me off when I hear about women's body counts, and I'm thinking, for God's sake, are we still there? Are we still like the girls are slag in the playground because she's shagged someone? Or, do you know what I mean? It's that
Yeah, and
it's still
rating.
there.
I mean,
It's
I have
just
to remind everyone
depressing.
that Facebook was started by the frat boys to rate women. Don't let them fool you into thinking that that was some amazing social,
Yeah,
you know, gift to the world. It was as
yeah. I mean,
basic.
I didn't know that actually. So
Yeah,
oh my
it's just
God.
gross. I know and I mean, Facebook, what is it? 20 years old or something now, and it's been part of our
Mm,
lives, and don't use it anymore because it's just hideous. But it was started like that. That something like a rating system for. I mean, it's just gross. I would have thought we'd moved on, but we just haven't got
well,
the
yeah,
where
I'm
it
not
appears.
seeing it. When I
No,
see young women,
no.
I'm not seeing it.
Mm,
And the
mm,
suicide rate's gone up as
yeah.
well, with young women, hasn't it?
It
Which
has
is
in Australia. I just read some stats on that actually, that it was young men, but now it's young women. It's past.
mm, yeah, and
And
it's
neither of it is good. Neither, both men or women. It just shouldn't be as high as it is.
it's insane. I
Mm,
worked out the other day that I knew something like 8 people who committed suicide. 8. That's me, just one
yeah.
person, one ordinary person. And these people were mainly men. There was only one woman out of them. But men from all different backgrounds, all different ages. And my friend's 16-year-old son committed suicide, and then very sadly 2 years later she did.
No.
And then it was my friend's husband in his 50s, military background. My neighbour, my auntie's neighbour,
Mm,
was just a young man,
mm,
ordinary young man. I didn't really know him that well. I just knew him as the neighbour. Um, and someone I used to work with, again, a really who I remember very well because when I worked with him, he was so on the ball. He was so clever and bright, and one of those people that I trained him actually, and he was out of the group. He was the one that picked everything up. That's why I remembered him
yeah,
because he was just
yeah,
so sharp and so on it. And he, this, and the list goes on. And I think, how can
mm,
I, one person, know so many people?
yeah,
What's going on here?
yeah,
You know, it's
that's right.
terrible.
And how has it reached this point where
Mm,
it's increasing rather than decreasing? Uh,
yeah.
what's going to happen? So, what if you had to go back to your 30-year-old self, Kate?
Hmm.
What would you whisper or yell in your 30-year-old
Oh,
self's ear?
God. I think I would get a megaphone and I
Mm,
would whisper, have confidence. Because I didn't realize that I hadn't got confidence because I always, plenty of friends. I always had
mm,
things to do. I wasn't a sort of flower, like little wallflower or anything like that. But that's different. That's a
mm.
shyness, isn't it? But I only realized that I didn't have confidence when I developed confidence. And
Interesting.
that, I didn't realize it was never there, but it
Yeah,
was always there, this massive lack of confidence in doing what I wanted to do. But again, back to the structural thing, partly that was
Yeah.
also to do with my background. And, I think I've spoken about it before where, if you're from some sort of, working class background, there's always that idea that you can't get ideas above your station. Even when you go to university, it's, no, you've got to get a proper job. You can't
Yeah.
fanny about with these silly creative ideas. What's wrong with you? I mean, you've got bills to pay, And
Yeah.
and there is an element of that because your parents can't afford to pay for all your gas, electric, and rent for a couple of years while you fanny about trying to be a writer.
Mhm.
So why even think about it? Because you
Yeah.
can't. And it's not, and I can't ever remember feeling, terribly bad or sad or, about that or hard done by because
Mm.
I think it's deeper than that. It's more
Yeah.
like a deep understanding that you're not in that world.
Yeah.
So, don't even think about it because
Mhm.
it'll just destroy you. Don't even go there because you'll never be able to do it. And so it, that combined with this, like I say, this lack of that I didn't even realize was lack of confidence, but was just this resignation to my
Mm.
lot kept me
Mm.
in places that really I didn't really want to be ever. It
Yeah.
kept me in relationships I didn't particularly want. It kept me in jobs that I
Mm.
was way too, even though it sounds terribly arrogant, but I was way too good for,
Yeah.
and kept me doing things that I didn't enjoy because I didn't want to go through promotions, because I
Mm.
didn't want to leave my teammates, because I got on with them all so well,
Yeah.
people I don't even see anymore. But it's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. It
you
is.
love your work colleagues, you have such a laugh,
Yeah.
you have such a great time, and oh god, no, I don't want to leave them, so I'll stay in this. Oh god, really?
Yeah.
Seriously? So yeah, I would wake up a little bit and
Mm.
say, look, the people around you are lovely, but out of all of them, you'll only ever keep one or two friends if you're lucky from that
Yeah.
group. You need to think about yourself more
Yeah.
and where you're going more,
Mm.
and have a plan rather than just dilly dallying through life like I did. It's like just pottering through, hoping for the best.
Are you happy where you are right now? I
Oh
mean,
God, yeah, happier
yeah.
than I've ever been. Yeah, 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 yeah. I mean, for all that, I slate my husband. God love him. He is a great bloke, and we are
Yeah.
very, very happy. And he's a nice man. He's a funny man, and I like him as much as I love him. And I
Yeah.
think it's so important to like who you live with. I know so many people who, even if they profess to love the husbands, they just don't like them. Yeah, and vice versa. And I just
Mm.
think, how can you live with someone you don't? Would you live with a housemate you don't like?
No, you wouldn't.
You wouldn't, would
You'd be out.
you?
No, you would be out.
Yeah. So
Um,
why would you live with a partner that you just don't like, that just aren't
yeah.
good people or,
Yeah.
drive you mad or whatever?
Or that you
Um,
complain about all the time, so you wake up every day.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, to be
Okay.
honest, I think that's usually when I start complaining about anything, be it jobs or anything, that's when I'm
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing.
Mm.
It's having worked at local authorities, I don't know if you've worked for a council,
Yeah.
a local authority, but um, there is a type of person within the council that I call the council drainer, and they drain the fucking life out of you every time you sit next to them, and they just endlessly moan about the systems and how they don't do things like they used to do 10 years ago, and why the
Mm.
boss is shit, and why they, and the minute I feel myself getting anywhere near that, I'm off. And
Yeah.
that, again, that's in relationships. So yeah, I might have stayed in relationships for the wrong reasons, but as soon as I've got to the point, I always have a line,
Yeah.
an invisible line, and once it's reached, that's me.
That's good. That's good advice, I think. If you really start complaining, then just you can take action, can't you? I mean, you have
Yes,
control over your own life,
yes,
amazingly.
absolutely. But I do think one thing I have always had that has stood me in good stead, I've always had like a real keen sense of this only being a one trick pony.
Mm.
You're only here for X amount of years
Yeah.
and you better make the best of it. And whilst I can look back to my 30-year-old self and say, you didn't really make the best of it, did you? No, I didn't. But it doesn't mean that when I knew I had to make a change that I was too scared to do it. I've always done it. I've always, bitten the bullet and gone for it, whatever that might be.
Mm.
So yeah, and for that reason, I haven't got that many regrets.
Mm. That's beautiful, and probably a good point to finish this chat on, because we've been talking for nearly an hour. It's been I know. Could have
I
probably
can
gone
do that on a bus with someone, to be fair.
Yeah. Yeah.
Never
You could be
stop.
you've had podcasts, you just haven't recorded them.
Because I am a podcast. I
You
never shut
are.
up.
You are. Maybe you should start your own, but maybe that's
Yeah.
for
I
a
wouldn't even know where
future.
to start. I wouldn't even know what to do. I wouldn't even know how to do the mechanics of it.
Oh,
So,
Substack make it easy, I have to say.
yeah. Do they? Oh, right. Okay. Maybe I'll look into it.
Sorry, now I'm coughing.
That always happens at the worst time. You got some water? Ah.
I can edit that out. I'm sorry about that. I don't know what happened. Whether I swallowed something. All right. Luckily, I do have editing capacity. Whoa, that's really freaky. Okay, breathe. Don't
It's
choke.
awful when that happens. It's a
It
really
is, yeah.
horrible
It is,
feeling,
and
isn't it?
it's really strange. I don't know if I swallowed something or it just, but I could feel it, and of course, you don't wanna cough because you don't want it, like, your ears to explode, so and then, of course, wrong button. Alright, look, I'll edit that bit out.
Yeah.
Thank you very, very much for your time today, Kate. It has been an absolute pleasure speaking to you, and I am sure we could have spoken for another
Oh,
hour.
at least, yeah. At the very least.
Yeah, so all of your details will be in the show notes after this, and we look forward to all of the amazing and funny and fantastic things ahead for you in your writing.
Okay, thank you. And thank you for having me. This is my first podcast. Who
Pop
knows?
pop
I'll
the
have my own
cherry.
TV show next.
You will, you definitely will.
Oh, well,
You're
thank you for inviting me, Lisa, and lovely to meet you.
It's a pleasure, Kate. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for tuning in to the Flucking Flourishing podcast, where we say a bold yes to growth, mess, and midlife magic. If you love this chat, make sure you're subscribed, share it with your fellow Queenagers, and perhaps leave a little love in the form of a review. It helps more fabulous humans find me. Until next time, keep flourishing your way, no fluff, no filters.